Hello everybody and welcome to the CrossFit Games Update Show. I'm Pat Sherwood, joined by Tommy Marquez. Today our focus is on the Central Regional, and this used to be the talk of the town when Rich Froning was competing in days gone by as an individual, but there's still a lot going on out there.
Oh yeah, you can swap Froning out with a couple of other games vets now.
Okay.
And even with Froning on the team competition, they are going to have their hands full if they want to repeat as regional champions before going on to the games.
And the stories that we are going to be focusing on out in the Central start with the team competition, where CrossFit Mayhem Freedom is out there looking to defend its title. And then you have Scott Panchik versus Jacob Hepner on the men's side of the house. And finally, the women's race, even though there's a tremendous amount of big names out there, it's still somewhat open. But the big story is CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. I mean, they were on the warpath last year. Are they just going to continue that streak?
I think so. I mean, you're talking about the reigning Affiliate Cup champions. They won their regional last year. At the games, they had 6 event wins and 11 top 5 finishes. And then they got better. They went out and got individual CrossFit Games athlete Lindy Barber and added her to the fray. So you take a team that's already won, you've made them better, and you've shored up some weaknesses, and they already have 3 of the most talented guys in the game. I think it's going to be another great year for them.
Now, over the first 2 weekends of competition, we've learned a lot. One of the primary things is new faces have surprised us every time, and some veterans have snuck back in. So other than Mayhem Freedom, who else could do it?
Well, there's 3 teams, all 3 of which finished inside the top 10 worldwide in the Open, starting with OC3 Black. They're actually, most of their team is from the QCCF team last year that was beating Mayhem Freedom at regionals before an unfortunate injury kind of derailed them there. Then you have CrossFit 417, made the games 11th place overall last year. They've also added individual athlete Kelly Jackson to their squad as well to improve up a little bit on last year. Then you have Timberwolf CrossFit. They didn't make the games last year. They had a disappointing finish at regionals, but the year before they were at the games and they were 4th, just 1 spot away from the podium. I think they've kind of revamped, reloaded, and all 3 of these teams could give Froning and company a run for their money.
Now, there is a team you won't see competing out there, and that's Westside Conjugate. That is because Laura Phelps Sweat has been banned from CrossFit-sanctioned competitions for 1 year due to a violation of the drug policy, so we'll have to wait another year to see them throw down. For the men, we established the seeds or rankings heading into this regional. How we did that was we took the Central East and the North Central regions, acted like they were the only ones competing in the Open, smashed them together, and here's how the men shook out. No shock, Scott Panchik on top of the leaderboard, and then a bunch of big names as well. You've got Jacob Hepner, Alex Anderson, and then some individuals that have been close but haven't gone yet, such as Sam Dancer, who is just a 210-pound monkey wrench that we throw into various events, but he could have a good year. However, all eyes, including ours, have to be on Scott Panchik, who I see as just captain consistency, going against Mr. Volume, and that's Jacob Hepner. Is that the battle with you?
Absolutely. They're going to pick up where they left off last year. They were the 2 battling for the top spot in this regional. Scott Panchik ultimately won out when Jacob Hepner had a little bit of a slip up in that final event. But you look at how they performed at the games last year. Hepner had a career year with the 10th, including an event win in Binline Madness. Scott Panchik never been outside of the top 10. He may have slipped per se to 6th. He was also
nailed it in.
Yeah, he was also battling a torn plantar fascia the entire time. So these are 2 of the men's elite going head-to-head.
And there's a good chance that Jacob Hepner has done every workout about 50 to 75 times with a 40-pound vest or something. But other than those 2 maniacs, who else are we looking at?
There's a handful of athletes that we saw in the seedings earlier, starting with Alex Anderson. He's the 2nd Anderson brother to have qualified for the games. He took 13th last year. Then we had 2 newcomers on those seedings graphic. There's Zach Carchetti, who is actually Jacob Hepner's training partner. And then you have Dre Strom, who's another CrossFit Mayhem product who finished 3rd in the Open in the Central East behind only Panchik and Froning. Extremely talented individual. Then old Mr. Reliable, Graham Holmberg.
Oh yeah, now we're talking.
He's been to the games what seems like almost a dozen times. He's finished 24th last year, but really what makes him so good at regionals is there's very few things that are going to catch him off guard. He's been training CrossFit and training at a very high level for so long. There's almost nothing that he hasn't touched in the gym, so he's going to be consistent across the board.
A lot of good competition heading out there on the men's side, but we also did the same thing for the women. We took the Open and smashed it together as if only the Central East and North Central existed, and here is what we found. Stacy Tovar, 6 times games athlete, leads the charge. And then a host of other big names in there, such as Brooke Wells, Jen Smith, Sheila Barden is on the warpath this year. And then we even have some athletes who didn't make this list here, such as Elizabeth Akinwale, but are seasoned veterans. With so many women out there, who do we focus on?
There's almost too many to count, Pat. You start at the top from the Open in the Central East. Christy Aramo could be kind of the rookie to watch this year if she manages to qualify for the CrossFit Games. Then you have 2 vets in Tovar, Stacy Tovar and Elizabeth Akinwale, who basically have a dozen CrossFit Games appearances between the 2 of them. But I think we'd be remiss if all eyes weren't on Brooke Wells. She was kind of one of the rookie phenoms last year. She won this regional, went on to have a great games, including some stellar performances. And in the offseason, she's been putting up some eye-popping numbers with the barbell, but there are some question marks. She showed how she struggled on Instagram with the strict muscle-ups in Regional Nate, and we don't know how those are going to hold up over time. And it's very possible, if that's a struggle for her, we could see some kind of compounding effect maybe on event number 7. And if it comes down to a final event to get to the CrossFit Games, who knows what could happen.
She kind of snuck up on us last year now, and we'll see how the pressure and all the publicity plays in this year. Somebody who doesn't crack under pressure is Julie Fouché. She's throwing down to this regionals. She has been to the games 4 times. She stood on the podium twice. The other 2 years, she took 5th. She's an incredible athlete, one of the most consistent ever. Last year, tore her Achilles at regionals, was operating a fraction of her capacity for the last 4 events, still took 8th place. Now she says she's going to have fun, only training an hour a day. But Julie Fouché showing up, hour of training a day to have fun, is she still a threat to take a spot?
Absolutely, without a doubt, 100%. Even though Julie's focus has shifted slightly away from competing, she has really built a base of fitness across the entirety of her career that translates well into basically any situation that we could throw at her. You talk about some of the basic gymnastics skills that she's practiced at length that show up for the first time with the strict movements. You talk about basically any other movement like pistols, like back-to-back workouts that she's probably done tenfold over the course of her career competing. And even though she may not be hitting the volume that she could, you never know. Sometimes PRs come out from funny places. If I can go and hit some PRs on some benchmark workouts after a weekend in Vegas, Julie Fouché can definitely come out to the Central Regional, surprise some people, and end up in Carson.
I mean, you can't argue with that, right? I mean, and with no pressure on her, I mean, that's a great place to be. You're not going to want to miss it. Central is going down May 27th to 29th at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. If you find yourself in Columbus, Ohio, tickets are still available. Go grab some, watch the event in person. If you can't, we have you covered. We'll have every live event, every live heat on games.crossfit.com and on the CrossFit YouTube channel. Make sure you also go to Facebook, go to the CrossFit Games page, click like, turn on the notifications. You'll get an alert anytime that we're on Facebook Live. You'll get behind-the-scenes coverage you can't get anywhere else. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Pat Sherwood. Enjoy regionals.